if you're a regular watcher of my podcast, Probate Weekly, over time, I've had Byron Batres in the prior iteration. He had another company that later got sold and merged in, and came back now stronger, better than ever a couple years ago. And I believe we had him on Scrivnr, and I've talked about this as a service that I use, but really it's gone from being a service I use to really like the Swiss Army knife of solving probate problems for probate professionals. Really excited to have the founder, Byron Batres. Byron, thanks for joining us.
Bill, happy to be on. I believe this is my fourth time on the show. So I don't know what the record is, but I hope to eclipse that soon.
I think you're there. I think you're it. I don't know they have it. In my database, I don't have a drop down for fourth time guest, so I think I have to add it because of you. So finished, funded, faster. in the probate space, you and I, we've talked over and over about it. The itch that started this whole process was your own experience. Talk about where Scrivnr fits in the marketplace. I'm a real estate agent, but you also have customers, I believe, who are attorneys who use your service. You have families who use your service. You have realtors like me who refer business to you. Talk a little bit about how you see Scrivnr fitting into the marketplace.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, the idea with Scrivnr was born from my extensive experience in probate. I think you said something about solving probate problems. And that really is what we're trying to do. We're trying to identify, tackle the problems that exist in probate and really provide meaningful, practical, and empathetic solutions for them. And this is for not only the people that go through probate, but also the attorneys, the legal system that essentially facilitates the probate, and also the entities that to some degree have a business, I hate to say the word problem, but that the death has a effect in their business. That could be the mortgage company. Obviously, that's a creditor. That could be a financial institution where they have assets. So the death causes so many downstream effects that both in my professional experience, I am a certified financial planner. I used to do wealth management. So I've seen that, directly in that world. And then obviously handling now close to probably 7,000 probate cases in my career. Wow. So we definitely have seen everything, and we've identified those problems, and I think we have really great solutions for them. So finished, funded, faster is our tagline. We had almost a funny internal discussion of, I don't know if you remember the Seinfeld episode. Of course, we're dating ourselves here, where George Costanza was like trying to do his tagline as he tried to get dates, by men. Do you remember that episode? Anyway,
yeah. Oh yeah.
So okay, and so for the longest time, Scrivnr had, it was like legal referrals, legal financing, legal reporting. That was our old kind of like underneath the logo. And so we tried to come up with what's the way that we could describe what we do. And so this is what we came up with: finished, funded, faster. So finished means that we think with our service, which is technology and financing, we can get to the finish line faster. The finish line means different things for different people. Realtors, that could be escrow. Mortgage companies, the discharge or the resolution of the mortgage, and the family member is obviously the ultimate distribution. Funded is our ability to pay for these things. So one of the biggest probate problems that exists is family members don't have the resource often to pay for the legal action, because it typically costs on average about $6,500 up front. That's assuming you're using an attorney. Even if you don't use an attorney in those jurisdictions that allow for self-representation, you might be coughing up $1,000 to $2,000. And so our system allows for us to provide capital to start the legal action, pay for those upfront costs, and then most importantly, pay for the stopping of the foreclosure. So that's probably the number one problem we've identified is foreclosure in the space. And we have the ability to do the legal action and then obviously pay for the start of the legal action and to stop the foreclosure. How do you stop a foreclosure? Very often you pay the arrears. And then faster is our technology. Both our people and technology mixed together. You get a real live person, start to finish on every case. But most importantly, we are available. I don't want to say 24/7 because that's not true, but like our technology is available 24/7. And the goal is to get a case started, so filed in court with a hearing date in as little as 2 business days from first contact to ultimately finished. We pride ourselves in trying to finish within 2 months of the creditor claim period, which is the fastest that you could realistically finish. Obviously, individual circumstances will come up where that's not possible, but so finished, funded faster, that's what all that means.
So I'm a real estate agent. My primary, experience was I would get cases that had already been filed. I found that 90% of families, petitioners, whether executors, administrators, love their attorney for the first 30 days or 90 days. 90%. And after about 3 months, 9% hated their attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of that was because there's some attorneys who are really good. The top 10% are really, really good, or they handle top 10% of the cases, which is like 1% of the attorneys. There's a system, there's a process. There's usually trained staff. They have procedures. But when I did the numbers, I was shocked to find in LA County at least, 9% of the cases were handled by an attorney who had done 1 or less in the last 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about. So let's talk about first off from like the attorney. One of the challenges is petitioners are told you don't need an attorney to do this, which is true technically. You don't need one legally to start the process. It's not like there's a gate that you can't unlock. It's just my experience is very few people can do this productively without an attorney. So obviously you must be dealing with some families that are calling you before the filing period. Talk about what that discussion looks like. How do you convince somebody, hey, I know you're thinking about doing this on your own, and you're going to save $10,000, but you may end up with an objector, you may end up with delays of 2 years, 3 years. Talk a bit about the discussion of where you can provide this, you'll finish it, and more importantly, you'll get it done faster.
Yeah, and I think this is really where my intense and long career in dealing with this has come to play, because we've become agnostic. If you remember, or actually if you even watched any prior episodes from me prior, you could even say that I was antagonistic to the business as usual model. See, what that means? Essentially, I was antagonistic to the way things are normally done. Easy probate was the do-it-yourself model. And so what we're able to provide now is a real model that allows people to choose how much help they want from us. In those jurisdictions that pro se do-it-yourself is allowed, we offer a guided process where our legal information, legal technology provides the forms, the instructions, so that people could do it on their own without an attorney. Let's just say that's a pretty narrow use case. What I found over the years, typically who can do that is no objections. Oftentimes, largely people who have a relatively high, I'm going to use the word confidence, and ability to navigate court in the very, very bureaucratic process. And so
technically detailed procedures. Boxes have to be checked properly, or else you're going back to zero.
Yeah. And even then, it's the frustration. I don't want to pick on any counties, but I'll call some out. So San Bernardino right now in California, if you were to e-file, good luck for them to process your e-filing with any reasonable amount of time. What we have found is now we have to send court runners because if the court doesn't forget receive, process your documentation in a timely period, you're going to get continued. So many people now get continued because they don't know the bureaucracy, if you are behind the system, and they will e-file and they're just wait and keep going to court. I filed this, the court never gets it. So our intimate knowledge of the system really, really is valuable. So most people can't really navigate that themselves, even if they could fill out the forms correctly, which often they don't. So we provide a guided system where we provide what we call a client advisor. Think of the client advisor as a probate project manager. Again, we don't give legal advice. We're not a law firm. We're not an attorney. We don't replace the attorney. But for those instances, very often, because there's very little of any equity in the estate where cost is like the most paramount consideration, people want to save money. And so we can help people guide them through the probate process for a flat fee of $3,000. When an attorney is wanted, needed, or often required by law, we have a nationwide attorney network. So every state is covered. Obviously, multiple attorneys in some states like California, where we can provide that attorney to help the client then go through the probate process. If that happens, we become free to the client, right? There is no additional charge if we are involved helping the client and attorney, with our technology, our process. Again, we become, same thing, the probate project manager. We provide technology, we provide non-legal customer support. And what I mean by that is like calling the clerk, did you get the filing? When is it going to be processed? Calling the bank, hey, how much is owed? How do we get authority to ask questions? All the things that often the family member nor the attorney has the time to call. I think last week, one of our clients' advisors spent about 45 minutes on hold, just waiting for the 800 number just to get the payoff quote and reinstatement, from the bank. I would say it's rare to have an attorney that would have the time or the ability, nor likely do you want to pay their hourly rate to sit on hold, right? So we are a flat fee. We provide that as part of our service. So that's what we're able to do for the attorney. And then we are a.
Hold on a second. Let me just kind of add a little perspective, from the outside a little bit is, and I know that people are going to watch and say, well, I'm an attorney, I'm a smart guy or gal, and customers come to them, and customers are happy with the attorney. The problem is, you can be an attorney like in Los Angeles area. You can be, say, in Buena Park, which is technically Orange County, and you may have a probate attorney who's great in Orange County, but there's little rules that are different in LA than Orange and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
That if you don't know them, and it's like one of the common ones is in LA County, they discard any prospective petition or order until the hearing date. Meaning, if you want to get something signed with the judge, you have to get the hearing, get the verbal approved in court, and then submit it. And I often have attorneys from other areas who will say, well, I submitted the order a week or two ago, and we're just waiting for the judge. No, you're not waiting for the judge. The judge is waiting for you to submit the form. And it sounds counterintuitive. In other counties, it's the opposite. In some counties, they print the form out and sign it there for you. And the attorney is used to that. And all of a sudden, they have one case in LA because it's a big matter for them, and nothing happens. And so this is where having that expertise is different than just having an attorney who does one a year. You guys are doing a bunch of them. I know you are because I do a bunch with you guys. So again, that's where the expertise, I think, it's not even just knowing what to do. It's knowing that each court has different rules, procedures, courtrooms, phone numbers, stuff like that.
Yeah, let alone sometimes there's different assets in different states. We helped an attorney recently do a case in, I think it was Santa Clara, California, but then there was assets in Oregon, which we uncovered that somebody had already filed a false will, allegedly false will. We helped the attorney find an attorney. This is the other thing that we do is we find attorneys for attorneys because attorneys have the same problem as everybody else has. If you call an attorney, it takes usually a fair amount of time for that attorney to give you a call back. And so we had to help this attorney find an attorney in Oregon to do the contest of the will. We had to petition the court to, yeet the prior administrator. Anyways, so we help solve probate problems for attorneys, for the clients themselves. And oftentimes when the family member doesn't want to do anything for lots of reasons, more often emotional, oftentimes there might be a family member who lived with mom or grandma at the house, and they're afraid if they become the administrator, well, they're going to have to deal with this person, which often means convincing them to leave gracefully, which is a hard thing to do, so you can sell the house. So we can take on that role as a professional fiduciary. So we offer all those systems. So when a family member comes to us, it's not just a one size fits all. It's not just do it yourself. It's not just an attorney. And it's not just a fiduciary. It's really how much help do you want from us?
So now we talk about servicing for attorneys and for families, but I'm a real estate agent, and I've really been pretty active in introducing people to you, both families, colleagues, and attorneys. So talk about your relation with the real estate agents really across the country. I know that I've been helping kind of meet different people and deal with real estate in other areas. So talk a little bit with the real estate agents, where your plans are on that.
Yeah, so I think the real estate agent obviously is motivated, I would say, not just exclusively, but largely by helping the family member do the transaction, which is selling the property. And so for the real estate family member perspective, even the attorney, the biggest obstacle is getting somebody with the authority to sell the house. And then secondarily, making sure, and I don't want to put the blame on the bank because this is just a legal process that happens, but making sure the bank doesn't, eschew the property via the foreclosure process. So when there's a decedent who can't pay the mortgage because they're dead, and the family members don't have the means, ability, or even understanding sometimes on how to keep that mortgage alive, if you will. Very often people come to us with like a foreclosure tomorrow, next week.
I've got several.
We're able to stop the foreclosure, which is usually your break glass in case of emergency, fire alarm drill. And I'm telling you, Bill, banks seemingly are making creative decisions to make stopping the foreclosure harder. There's been several banks who do not accept wires anymore. So we do what we call the foreclosure Olympics, where we physically have to go to the bank, print out a certified check, send them a picture that there's proof that there's money, picture that we're sending the check, all to stop the foreclosure the next day. So it's a really challenging process. Unless you've done it so often and you have the tools and resources and staff to do that, most cases with a foreclosure ends poorly and the bank will sell the property at auction. So we're able to stop the foreclosure if that exists, and obviously facilitate the filing, getting somebody the authority. So that's step one, is getting the authority to sell. Step two is actually selling the property. We don't really do that part. Obviously, we work with our realtor partners, but very often to get somebody to sell the property in probate, probates are very unique properties. Number one, they're often, there's deferred maintenance. So, it's not a typical sale. So you definitely want somebody who knows what they're doing in the probate sale process. But more often than not, like I mentioned, there are family members who live in the house and can't exit the house, right? And so that it becomes like the Gordian knot, where how do you get somebody to leave the house if they're an heir, which is often the case, without them getting their inheritance, but they can't get their inheritance until they sell the house. You can't sell the house so you're stuck. And so what we're able to do with our financing structure is provide the cash for keys, whether it's a squatter, whether it's an heir, or sometimes just like absolute have to, imagine there's a roof that needs to be put on. We can provide the capital to get the house ready to sell. So we don't do any remodeling, by the way. Like we're not going to do that. But think of the emergency procedure to get the house ready to sell. We can do that to then get the home to escrow as fast as possible, as in close of escrow and funds being distributed. So that really is our forte.
So there's really two different types of financing, or two different buckets that you work in. And I know this because I've worked with you on both. One is advancing an heir, somebody who all research indicates they're going to get money, but they're not going to get it until after the house sells, and then after the probate at the very end is closed, the distribution is made. That could be, 6 months later, theoretically, or longer. If there's objections, a lot longer, as opposed to lending money to the estate where you have an administrator, executor who's managing the affairs, and the estate has money needs that can help them effectuate closing. Sometimes that includes cash for keys for said squatter or heir. And so these are two different things that I find there are a lot of companies that do advances. They're expensive. And then there are a few companies that do loans to trust estates, but even there, those few don't do that many, so they don't really develop the expertise. So talk a little bit about, I'm sure you get phone calls from people who think they want one loan or the other. Talk about kind of the distinction between the two, though in some cases I imagine you do both on the same transaction or same probate.
Yeah, so when I go over our financing options and kind of what they are, what they're intended for, and I can explain in detail what they are. So number one, they're not loans. I don't want to be nitpicky, but a loan there's strict criteria to be qualified as a loan, when heavy regulation as they should. We do advances, so we are able to provide a benefit to somebody who's going to receive something in the future. So technically they sell to us a future benefit. that then we are able to capture once the thing happens, typically the sale of the house. So we offer 4 types of financing. First is to start the action. So most probate cases, like I think I mentioned this before, typically the probate startup costs tend to be about $6,500. That's traditionally attorney fees, court fees, newspaper announcement. And then if you add a fiduciary bond, if there's fighting or maybe for whatever reason a bond is required, that can go up. So we tend to advance $6,500 to start a case. We've advanced more than that. I think the highest we've ever advanced is just shy of $20,000 because the person had very, very, very bad credit. And I think their bond was about $9,000 cost.
Wow.
So our system is able to pay for those upfront costs, which people typically don't have. So not so fun fact. 50% of US adults don't have $1,000 at the ready to pay for an unexpected expense. And typically death is at the minimum unexpected. Even if grandma's dying, you don't know when, right? You don't know the day, you can't really plan for. And often grandma might have assets, but me, the grandson or son, might not have those available assets. So if you can't pay to start the legal case, you're stuck, right? So we're able to pay to start the legal case by fronting the upfront costs of the legal action. And our system is non-recourse. So if for whatever reason you lose, you petition the court, and what I call the mistress will happen. Imagine grandpa dies. Grandpa had a girlfriend that no one ever knew about. And grandpa had a will that no one ever knew about that gave the girlfriend everything. If you were to use our system and we provide the upfront money to start the case, and then the girlfriend gets everything, you don't owe us anything. That's the risk that we take. So we're able to unlock the start of probate. I think you're about to ask me a question.
Yeah, and I think I want to kind of start, I know you mentioned 4 types, that's number 1. As a real estate agent, that's what I deal most commonly with. Somebody calls me and says, my uncle died, and where do I go? And we talk about the money. Sometimes it's not even just the money. I think there's 2 parts. One is instead of shopping for who charges the least upfront, because attorneys will say, well, I don't charge any fees up front. And then they drop the bomb on the customer later. Oh, by the way, you need the expenses money after they've signed their contingency. Or they'll say, well, I don't charge anything up front of my legal fees, just expenses. But some will quote the right number, some won't include everything. And so rather than shopping based on who quotes you the lowest fee, this is like an all-one solution. And I think the other thing that you said, that obviously I don't want to see you guys beat out of any money. You're an important vendor for me. But I feel like I can say to the customer, why not let them vet the case for you? Because yes, you are charging a percentage of that $6,500, but to the person filing the petition, they don't have to worry about the mistress will or those issues. They're kind of delegating that to you as a business. And I always feel like when you have a partner who's a professional in the transaction, you're going to get a better decision. You're going to get things to move along better because that partner wants to get paid at the end of the day as well. And so I think it's really important to kind of say to the realtors on the call or attorneys, you can eliminate the shopping based on upfront costs, as well as assure your customer, hey, I can't guarantee you're going to get your probate. What I can guarantee is you're not going to lose your upfront money if you use this process. And I think it's just a way to, again, don't want to beat you out of it, don't want to bring you fraudulent cases, the opposite, but I want to give people the security up front that they don't have to worry about that.
100%. And sometimes it's even not the lack of resources, but it's you will part away from this money for up to a year. If you're the administrator of the estate and you provide the upfront money, you do not get reimbursed typically until the end of probate. You have to ask permission from the judge of the estate to distribute those monies back. So you could be out the money for close to a year, which would really stink if you had, say, vacation money saved up, and then you have to use that for probate. Now, guess what? You can't take a vacation. So even for those with the means, it's a very helpful process. And we charge a flat fee. Typically, it's $2,000, regardless of how much we provide. If it's really, really tiny, obviously, we then just charge 20% of the money that we provide. And so that's part 1 is starting the case. Part 2 is the estate advance. This is typically reserved for stopping a foreclosure and cash for keys. Like I mentioned, we don't do remodels. I don't want to get into the economics of should I get a new kitchen or not, redo the bathroom. That's not my decision. That's really not what we're for. We're for the emergencies where the foreclosure is in case, or we need a specific action to unlock the ability to sell the house, typically cash for keys. If there's a squatter, cash for keys or an inheritance advance if there is an heir who lives in the property. So I'll pin that thought for a second about the heir. So again, this is to stop the emergency. And mind you, we're the only entity that exists that A, will do this, and B, letters don't have to be issued before we do this. More often than not, we will pay for the legal action and stopping the foreclosure while the petition is either pending or, awaiting signature from the judge or whatever. Because from our perspective, if we can stop the emergency, and obviously we vet the case, and very often we're involved or we're working with the attorney who's given us a thumbs up, yes, they approve this, we can save the house from being taken and thus saving the estate assets. So that's our model. For stopping foreclosures and cash for keys, we charge a flat fee of 20%, which is a fee, not an interest rate, regardless of how long it takes to get paid back. So we will get paid back at the sale of the house. So that could be, as I think the fastest we've ever gotten paid back is 5 days. And the longest it's taken us to get paid back is 10 months. And never do we charge more or less for it. We think that's very fair. And it's a way for us, obviously, to gather investors for the fund that provides the capital for this. So again, we provide funds to start probate. We provide funds to save the house, typically. The third type of capital that we provide is to the heir. And we don't do this. We don't really advertise this. You'll never see us sending flyers. Everything that we do is always to support the administrator. So think of this as it's almost like a secret. Obviously, it's not really a secret, but we don't really say this. We don't tell anybody that we're doing this unless the administrator comes to us and says, I have a problem. My brother is yelling at me, my whatever. If they come to us with a problem and say, hey, we can solve your problem. Remember, we solve probate problems. And one of those problems is either we got to get somebody out of the house who's an heir. Side note, if there's an heir living in the house, you technically can't treat him any better or differently than any other heir. So you really can't just give money away from the estate to this person to leave. You have to, it gets a little tricky. So what we've developed, just using tools that we've seen, is we can advance the heir their own money. And so for this, we do charge a little bit more. Why? Because there's more risk. We don't get paid back until the heir is allowed to have a distribution. Obviously, creditors come into play. There's a net estate asset that comes into play, and time comes into play. But we don't charge, this sounds like a lot, but compared to others, we don't charge a lot. We charge 30% fixed fee. So for every 10,000 we provide, we get 3,000 in fee back, obviously plus the principal. And compared to the market, which is typically 100%, right? So for every 10,000 that you can advance, you're paying back 20,000 to the inheritance advance company. Part of me is always surprised they're allowed to do this, but that's a discussion for another day. So again, the idea is to support the administrator, not make a business out of, providing capital to people at a very, very, very high interest rate or fee structure. And then the last capital that we provide.
Let's stop there, just because we're running out of time a little bit. So the advance the heir, my experience is almost universally turns to, oh, that's really expensive. And I always come back to, well, this person's an adult, it's their life. And so one of the cases I had was a woman was going to inherit a $500,000 property. She was the administrator. She wasn't going to get the money till the end, which was at least 6-9 months down the road from where we were. Her aunt, who had raised her like a mother, she called her like her mother, I forget the term, had died, and nobody had money for funeral expenses, and she really wanted to do it nice. She said, I'd like to do this, this, and that. I'm coming in at $500,000. Can I just get $10,000? And the answer was yes. And she paid like a $3,000 premium. On $500,000, she was going to get a year later. But I remember she called me in tears. She was so happy that she was able to do this. The rest of her family, nobody had a nickel, and she's able to do this. It's her money. Who am I to say it's too expensive, right? She's an adult. She had a job. She was a productive member of society. And so I think sometimes these, giving money for somebody to buy cocaine and go on a binge for 9 months, that would be, reprehensible. But for somebody to make a decision on what they want to do with their life, buying a new car, cars, so reliable transportation to get to work every day, so they can live in a little more dignified manner. That's often the case on these errors, and I think it's admirable that we can do that. Now, in your case, it's only the administrator. In this case, this was the administrator, so she was able to get that advance.
So we had a case together where I recall that it was either the sole heir, but there was like a family member that helping her. Regardless, they were selling the house. They couldn't sell the house until they had another place to live. Because again,
Yes.
and so instead of just providing the money, because I don't even think they had a bank account at the time,
Correct.
we were able to purchase on their behalf, right?
Yes.
This is their, we're advancing their funds, but we purchased a trailer.
Yes.
We pre-funded a lease to put the
Yes.
trailer, and
Yes.
then we didn't buy them, but again, we directly purchased on their behalf
Yes.
a car to then be able
Yes.
to put the
That's
trailer
right.
on which then allowed them to get out of the house,
Yes.
sell the property,
Yes.
and then obviously we got paid back upon the sale of the house. So yeah, these are all the problems that
They were
often
thrilled.
happen.
This woman
They
was
were-
stuck in a house
yeah.
with like 20 people in various bedrooms and rooms and in the backyard and living in cars. And she was able to, in her mind, in a dignified way, live in a trailer on their own land, some outside area, out in nature, whatever she wanted to live in. Thrilled to drive her own truck to get there. And we could sell the house and get a better price for the house at the end of the day as a result.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last benefit that we provide from a capital perspective is to the attorney themselves. And so one of the things that I think I pride myself in is like listening and trying to solve problems. And often the problem with the attorney, from a business perspective, that is their business model. They don't get paid until the very, very, very end. And so they're almost a victim of their own speed, the court system. And so if a case takes 9 months, even if imagine you're an attorney that's just super good, likely 9 months is a realistic, fastest, best case scenario to close a estate. The attorney in those 9 months has payroll, has rent, has all these expenses. And so we're able to provide an attorney an advance on their future legal fees. And so for a lot of our attorney partners, they're either being, I hate to say saved, but they're having a resource to help them with cash flow, or they think about it as wait a minute, if I can reinvest some of the funds that I'm getting into getting more clients,
Right.
that just grows the business. So we've been able to successfully fund several attorney to really either just cash flow kind of help or grow their practice, which most banks, when it comes to a service-oriented process, especially legal, it's hard to find a bank that will lend you money. And so we're able to provide them a really easy, flexible way to get some capital and obviously grow the practice or fix some cash shortfalls that may occur.
Well, cash shortfalls may occur, or give them the ability to take business they otherwise couldn't afford to finance. Because if you're going to get a $20,000 fee a year later, it sounds great. But if you have, let's say, $10,000 in costs, how many cases can you carry
take on?
before you
Yeah.
run out of cash? And maybe you can only carry 10. Well, if you can get cashed out or advanced at some point, maybe you can carry 15, 20, 30 cases, or the flywheel starts and you can carry, a scaling up number. And so I think sometimes it's just economics and numbers and business. And I also feel like, again, you guys are also going to watch that case closely over their shoulders because you want to get paid. And so you bring a professional into the deal. So that's, again, for attorneys, too often I think they look at it as, oh, I'm falling behind in my business. Maybe not. Maybe you're growing so quickly that you don't have the capital to allow you to grow. And any growing business has those issues. Where do you raise money? You raise money from investors. I know when I started my mortgage company, we used credit cards. At one point, I owned like $100,000 in credit cards. My business was growing, but I didn't want to take the cash out because I wanted to hire more people and I wanted to have more loans in process. So again, that's one that everybody should make a judicious decision. But again, those are opportunities that make sense. So those are four ways you finance. Just to recap again, the startup costs, the cost to the administration of the estate, the administrator, cash for keys, primarily security of the property, stopping foreclosures. Third is advances to heirs. And the fourth would be advancing legal fees to attorneys and professionals.
100%. Yeah, so that's really how the business started. So we started Scrivnr in 2023. Actually, I started Scrivnr. I was a solo operator, really with the idea that I thought financing was needed in the space. Kind of did that for about a year and a half. And then this year, what we discovered is that as we were helping finance the cases, we were learning that our attorney partners, our clients were wanting more, just more from us. And so we have since developed, I should say redeveloped, because I'm the OG probate tech person. And so we have now launched our technology platform, which I mentioned earlier. And so we can help people with probate. We can help attorneys take on more cases, or we can be the fiduciary as well. So we have a tech platform that we can automate the process. What we also found is our attorneys and our partners, our clients want to learn where the case is at. So we developed a software to be able to provide information. If you're the attorney and we're managing 30, 40, 100 cases for you, how are you going to track them all? We have a no code, easy to use, no installation software system where you're going to be able to have case management that can work alongside your current case management. So you don't have to change vendors. And so we're able to provide a really great detail of where cases are at, what's changed, what are the deadlines, what have we done on behalf of the attorney or filing, so the attorney can review the work. And so that becomes a really, really great streamlined process. And the one area that we found the biggest growth is helping those entities that have the problem with death. And so I'm proud to say that I can't say who yet, but most of the mortgage companies that we have stopped the foreclosure from have now started to ask us proactively to help them mitigate foreclosure. Yeah. And so we're thrilled to think about this as a system solution. And so we're working with reverse mortgages, forward mortgages, asset managers, servicers, all of them who, until we came along, thought the only way to solve a foreclosure or solve a defaulted mortgage because of death was foreclosure. We're introducing the concept of, wait a minute, bank, we can get you to the finish line, i.e. resolution, faster. Typical foreclosure takes 2 years, typically, to process. Some states is 5 years. Probate typically takes 2 months to get somebody with the authority, to act, which potentially could be selling the house. And foreclosures typically take about $77,000 in cost total to the bank. Some of that is hard dollar cost. There is a legal process, attorney fees. Much of that is in deterioration of the house. You can imagine someone's dead for 2+ years. The house is not maintained, could have squatters, could be damaged. And more importantly, what also learned is if you evict or foreclose on somebody, the family dynamic, the family attitude changes from this is grandma's house to, if I may, F the bank. And they start to destroy the property because they are upset, they're hurt, they're about to be homeless. And so it can cause damage to the property. Again, it's not the bank is mean, this is what the government has set out as the process. So we're able to introduce a faster process, less expensive. If there's equity in the house, the bank pays nothing, right? The estate pays for everything. If there's no equity in the house, the bank can nominate us as the administrator, or we can provide an assistance for the family. Oftentimes the bank will provide an incentive for a family member to cooperate, sign documents, be the administrator. And then we facilitate the process just like we would normally. So right now we're getting a lot of traction from the mortgage companies, the lenders, the originators, the servicers, because we're providing, I think, a better solution. And importantly to them is brand reputation. Think about what a different reaction from a family if you get contacted by the bank and said, hey, we're so sorry your grandma died, so sorry your mom died. We know you're dealing with a lot. We've partnered with a firm that can help you at least answer your questions, free consultation, never, no requirement to use us, but also we provide the actual path to then solve the problem efficiently, quickly, and empathetically. So really, all of a sudden now the mortgage company is seen like the hero as opposed to the villain.
And we've done some of these cases where I did one with you, I think in San Diego, where it wasn't even yet foreclosure. It was just vacant, squatter.
Hmm.
And in California, not only can a creditor apply to administer probate, but so can anybody. And so, just as anybody, in this
Yeah.
case, use me as a fiduciary. We followed the case and we contacted the heirs and said, "Hey, you can take it over and do it if you want, but you know what? This is the process we've laid out. We're ready to go. If you want to file your own, file your own. You want to hire your own attorney? Good luck. If you want us to handle it for you, we're glad to do it for you." And at the end of the day, the property got sold. People got the money distributed, and
Yeah,
the
that was
neighborhood
a really
was
fun case. Number one, because the person who contacted us was like the neighbor. They were just
yeah,
concerned because if I remember correctly, the squatters were cooking meth in the
yes,
property, so
yeah,
it was a problem for the community to have this
yeah.
house kind of unmaintained, uncared for. And
In
even
a
though there
condo.
wasn't, yeah, it
It
was
was a
condo,
condo
yeah.
they were cooking meth. So I was like, when you say next door neighbor, it wasn't like a house away. It was like just the next unit
The
over.
immediate neighbor, yeah. And even though there wasn't a ton of equity, I think, but it's something, and nobody had to fork up any dollars. We're able to minimize time and effort and costs. And ultimately, one of the heirs also died, which then we were able to use a faster, more streamlined process because they qualified. I don't even believe we charged anything for that second probate either. So yeah, so that's really our motto, is to really solve these problems,
Yeah.
which in this case included an eviction, included some kind of, I hate to say extra legal work, but like in the sense of police had to get involved. And you had to like obviously get rid of the people who were in the house.
One of the areas I think that maybe you undersell it because you're not as working with attorneys that aren't working with you as I am, is the vendors that you work with regularly that are available for other people to use, particularly a bank. They can open an account
Mhm.
online, and a bond company. A bank, my experience is attorneys will tell the customer, "Oh yeah, go open a bank anywhere you want." Well, good luck getting an account open. Now, I don't want to badmouth any bank in particular like Wells Fargo, but good luck going to Bank America and opening a bank in a trust. They're only going to ask you for like a pint of blood, DNA samples. It's just, I've never had a
And you
customer come
physically
back
have to
and
go there. Yeah.
you physically have to
Now,
go there multiple times, right? Versus you have a bank that you use that allows online access, online opening of
yeah,
accounts, but
100%.
online
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, so we develop what we call our a la carte services. So if you think about what we offer is kind of like a soup to nuts concierge service where we do everything either to help the attorney, to help the individual, or become the fiduciary. So that's the service side. What we uncovered is a lot of attorneys, a lot of cases are, let's just say, far enough along where they're doing reasonably well without needing a lot of assistance. But the problems that we've uncovered with people is sometimes they're told to open a bank account, they encounter challenges, and they don't. So then they start commingling assets, estate, and personal, which is a big no-no. So now we partner with a bank called RHO Bank, where we open the bank account. We act like the branch manager. So one of the things that's really great about this process is twofold. When family members have a fight, it's because usually they don't trust each other. And so one of the tech platforms that this bank, what's really technically, it's not a bank. Row is more of a tech platform on top of a bank, right? What Row is able to provide is the ability for us to invite family members, attorney, either for viewing purposes. Let's see what's happening in the bank account. Think of the distrust that could dissipate if you're alerted to every transaction, if you had the ability to go online, but what did my brother do today? And often the bond company might require the attorney to approve transactions. The
Right.
technology platform is there where we can, obviously the owner, the administrator has to authorize this. It can give the attorney approval status of every transaction. So that way no money can leave the estate without the attorney knowing, the administrator knowing, and often the family members at least being notified or having the ability to see. So that's a great product that we offer. Also, these banks, these platforms aggregate banks, so you can get up to 75 million in FDIC insurance because your actual deposits are spread amongst multiple banks.
Right.
Normally, that's not a thing, but I remember the day I heard when Silicon Valley Bank was going under, and the firm that bought me were my deposits were used them. So there was a moment in time I was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to get nothing. So banks do fail. And if you don't have FDIC insurance, which is capped at $250,000, the average deposit of an estate is typically about $500,000. And so we're able to help the fiduciary liability be less by having higher FDIC insurance. You mentioned we offer fiduciary bonds. Yeah, we work with lots of bonding companies, especially when people are rejected. One of the reasons they're rejected, they may have like a marijuana charge from when they're 18. Maybe they have low credit or no credit. And so we're able to overcome those problems by using some of the facilities that we use. We can do a genealogy study. Obviously, we don't do it. We partner with somebody else. We do accounting, both the tax as well as the court accounting. All these are one-off services that either attorneys or the administrator can choose without necessarily doing all of our service.
Yeah, the banking is a big deal, I think, because, like you say, the attorney will say, go open a bank somewhere. Oftentimes people can't get a bond. My experience is anybody can get a bond if the attorney is willing to sign on the bond and oversee it. They're hesitant because there have been cases where, disreputable people took a check, went to local Wells Fargo, and even though it said to require 2 signatures, for some reason Wells Fargo approved the check. And the way the law is, liability is all on the estate, which then falls on the attorney. And having a bank where you can check, it's all online. You can't go to the branch. You can only do it online, and you can make the rule the attorney sees it. Gives the attorney the ability to do 2 things. I think 1, protect themselves. 2, offer to customers, you're not bondable, I can get it done for you. And that's a big advantage. And I think that's one of those things where, again, I don't think you want to pass on business just for that. Even if they have a criminal record, if you can control the bank account, there's no reason not to give somebody access to a bank account if you have to approve everyone. And as an attorney, either you do it or you have a paralegal or somebody that you trust.
No, 100%.
To do these things, obviously, and how probably. These are little things that I don't think people realize unless you're in the business. So those attorneys are watching, definitely should consider reaching out to see about using and starting off with the a la carte. And that's the other thing I like about your services. They can start a la carte. Next thing you know, they can delegate the administration to you or hire you as a fiduciary, and then they end up in a referral process where, oh, you're in Lexington, Kentucky. It turns out we have a case in Lexington. We need an attorney. Will you work with us? And so talk a little bit about how you get attorneys kind of coming to you for business, but you also have a need to send them business.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways that we work with attorneys. Number 1, if an attorney has a case that they want help with, however much help they want, we can take on that case and assist the attorney with legal technology, non-legal customer support, and some of our a la carte stuff. And number 2 is we've created essentially a marketplace. Like I mentioned before, our business model is not necessarily going after the individual customer. Not that we don't want to, or we'd love for people to hear about us and come to us directly. That's never a reason not to. It's just very expensive to find the person who needs you at the moment in time that they need you, because our product is, it's so weird. If you buy a sweater from Dix.com and sneakers, you're going to likely, every time your sneakers wear out, you might go back. So you can acquire a customer and get some value out of it. You only die once, and most people only go through probate once, right? And so our business model has been predicated about finding the entities, the mortgage company, the insurance company, the financial institution, the funeral home, those that have what I call the concentration of the problem, their customers passing away, and then that causes a problem to their core business, mortgage, collecting the mortgage, as an example. So then we get introduced to the family from that entity. And so that's what we're able to do. So obviously, if we're introduced to the family and they want an attorney, well, then we need an attorney on this side to match and make the marriage, so to speak. And so we're able to provide to the attorney the case, the client. So we vetted the client, we pre-talked to the client. We have what we call a statement of facts. When we come to an attorney with a case, we've done all the work. We have the petition of probate already filled out. And then the attorney can say yes or no to this case. If they say yes, boom, we then start working with the attorney. We'll finance it if needed. And then we probate project manage it. So this is part marketing, part in-house tech firm and part outsourced non-customer legal support, the talking to the client in a non-legal advice way. All the things that most attorneys, unless they're in a huge law firm, and typically you would only take, estates that are worth millions to be able to then cover the costs for those services. We're able to provide almost like an outsourced in-house probate department to a law firm, and also to entities that are in the death care, the legal tech space. In fact, we started work a lot with, I'm sure you've seen some of these online wills, online trust companies. Well, guess what? Every time you create a will or a trust, eventually somebody's going to pass. And if you don't have a solution to be like, okay, this is how you do and execute the document, you really haven't really helped anybody, because you have a document that's sitting in someone's drawer that then no one knows how to deal with it. So then we're able to take on that case and kind of do that full circle for that entity. Yeah, so that's how we get our clients. So then we're able to then go to an attorney and say, we have a case, we've done all the work, and if they can't pay you, we can. And so most attorneys are like, thank you. It's like the greatest gift that they've ever gotten, right. Because no marketing, no subscription, no annual fees, and then they get a partner that really cares about them, their practice, and their client.
And the referrals coming from somebody who knows what they're doing in those areas, and oftentimes is financially involved. You're saying the deal to the attorney, but you're doing the administration, or you're doing an advance, or you're doing the bond, or you're doing the banking, or all of the above. It's one of those things where it's good business because you guys want to get paid. If it wasn't good business, you wouldn't be taking it yourself. So definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I know I've gone a little long. I appreciate you being available. This for those who are watching. This is a service I've used quite a bit from the first time I met him at the prior version or for a prior company, and then when Scrivnr was launched right away, I've jumped on it. I've watched the iterations. I've worked with you guys. I even offer a kind of a coaching free of charge. Any realtor wants to work with Scrivnr, be glad to talk to you about how to use this individually in your business. I do promote this to attorneys that I work with, but I would say, and if you're an attorney, feel free to reach out if I can help you. Obviously, you can reach out to Byron and his team. That's what they do. But particularly if you're a real estate agent, I'd be glad to help you understand how to use this product more for your business. Scrivnr.com, and just a little trick. There's no E at the end. SCR, it's right on his chest. SCRIVNR.com is the website and the service, the company. And Byron Batres is the founder. Byron, thank you so much for your time today.
No, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your commitment to the industry. I know I've used you. I've had many great experience with my customers, and they're not all easy. It's still a tough gig, but you make what is otherwise overwhelming a less tough gig and more profitable and more pleasant for my customers and me. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Very, very happy to be here. I'm proud to say that I think our foreclosure stop tracker is exceeded 300, and we hope to someday end foreclosures due to death, because we're working with the very entities that are initiating the foreclosure. So our dream is to have a world where there is no foreclosure due to death, because we are either convincing the mortgage, the servicer to do probate, which is the best result for everybody involved. And obviously it's a lot less stressful. It gives the family members the highest opportunity to get their maximum value of their inheritance.
Well, fantastic. The only downside of Scrivnr is if you talk to Byron, you have to listen to him talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Other than that, it's been a great. As a Los Angelino, that's been tough the last couple of years. So anyhow,
we kind of own the Rams, although boy, we've had some lucky games for sure. I'm a little sad my Eagles have not done well of late, but I think we're going to turn it around for the year. I'll see you at the Super Bowl.
I think the rest of the city of LA has been beating up on Philadelphia to try to make up for the Rams. So we'll see how that works out. Byron, thank you so much for your time today, as always, and really appreciate your time.
All right, absolutely. Thank you.
And for actually, this is Probate Weekly. We get together. Oops, I lost my spot there. We get together every week, and usually with attorneys, but in this case, a vendor. I think that's critical both for realtors' business, for attorneys' business, to be more effective for your business. If I can help at all, please reach out at Bill Gross Probate on social media. As always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.